Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Universal Tarot. I'm truly happy you're here today because this reading carries an energy that feels deeply personal. It doesn't feel random in the ordinary sense. It feels like one of those moments where the right message arrives when someone has quietly reached an emotional crossroads. There is a strong sense that this reading is meeting people who have been holding a lot inside, people who have been trying to stay strong while something important has been shifting beneath the surface. For today's reading, I pulled 3 random cards and allowed the energy to speak for itself. I didn't anchor this reading to one specific question because I wanted the message to come through naturally for whoever is meant to hear it. Sometimes that's when the strongest truth arrives. The mind may not always know what it needs to ask, but the spirit knows what it is ready to receive. As you listen, try not to force the reading to fit every part of your situation. Let it unfold in a more intuitive way. Notice which words stay with you. Notice where your emotions respond. Sometimes the most important part of a tarot reading is not the dramatic moment. It is that quiet sentence that lands in your chest and makes you pause because it feels too close to ignore. This reading feels especially connected to someone who has been emotionally tired for longer than they admit. Perhaps you've been functioning in your daily life, doing what needs to be done, answering people, meeting obligations, and continuing to show up where you are expected to show up. But inwardly, you felt like your energy has been changing. There may be something you can no longer carry in the same way. There may be a truth you can no longer push aside. There may also be a new possibility beginning to form, even if it still looks small from where you stand now. The first card on the table is the Star. This is a beautiful way for a reading to open, because the Star carries an energy that feels like relief after emotional strain. It is not the kind of card that storms into your life demanding a dramatic reaction. It enters quietly, but what it brings is deeply meaningful. It brings restoration. It brings spiritual reassurance. It carries the kind of comfort that reaches people who have been strong for too long and are finally nearing the point where their spirit is ready to recover. What I feel most strongly here is that this card is speaking to someone who has been through a season that changed them. It may have been heartbreak. It may have been disappointment. It may have been repeated stress, emotional confusion, betrayal, exhaustion, or even the slower kind of pain that comes from carrying too much without enough support. Whatever form it took, the experience seems to have left a mark. You may not be the same person you were before it. Part of you may have become quieter. Part of you may have become more guarded. Part of you may have started wondering whether peace is still something that belongs to you. The Star answers that question with softness, but it answers clearly. Yes, peace still belongs to you. There is something so important about that message, especially if you've had days where you felt disconnected from hope. Some people listening to this have learned how to survive difficult emotions without letting anyone see how heavy things have become. You may have gone through the motions so well that people around you assumed you were fine. Yet inside, there may have been a different story. Fatigue may have lived in your chest. Grief may have followed you quietly. A sense of emptiness may have appeared in moments where joy used to come more naturally. The Star is the kind of card that appears when healing is not just possible, but already underway. That does not always mean everything is fixed overnight. It does not mean you suddenly wake up one morning without fear or pain. More often, it means you begin to notice subtle changes. Your breath feels a little deeper. Your mind softens for a few moments instead of racing constantly. You feel less attached to the wound that once defined your whole inner world. You begin to trust yourself again in small but meaningful ways. There is also a spiritual layer here that feels very personal. If you have felt forgotten, this card suggests you were never abandoned. If you have felt distant from your own inner voice, this card suggests that connection is still alive and waiting to be heard again. If you began questioning your worth because of what you experienced, the Star wants to separate your value from your pain. What happened to you may have affected your confidence, but it did not change the truth of who you are. For someone listening, this card feels like a direct message to the version of you that has been silently holding on. You may have cried without telling anyone. You may have asked the universe for a sign during a night when your thoughts were too loud to ignore. You may have wondered why your heart still felt tender when so much time had already passed. The star does not criticize you for how long healing takes. It honors the process. It reminds you that wounded parts of the self do not need shame. They need care, patience, truth, and enough safety to open again. So the first card offers this truth. You are being restored in ways you may not fully see yet. Your light is still yours. And hope is returning, not as fantasy, but as something your soul is ready to feel again. Your second card is the Eight of Cups. This is where the emotional tone of the reading deepens. After the healing light of the star, the Eight of Cups brings in honesty. It speaks to a situation that has reached an inner ending, even if the outer world has not fully caught up yet. This card often appears when someone has come to a difficult realization. They have continued pouring energy into something that no longer nourishes them, and they can feel in their heart that this cannot continue forever. What makes this card so powerful is that it does not usually arrive during moments of confusion alone. It arrives when the truth has already started settling inside you. You may still be wrestling with what to do. You may still be afraid of what change will ask from you. But somewhere deeper than fear, there is recognition. There is a knowing that something has gone emotionally flat. There is an awareness that you cannot keep calling something meaningful when it only leaves you feeling emptier. For some people, this will connect to a relationship. Perhaps there was a time when it felt deep, hopeful, alive, or worth fighting for. Over time, though, the emotional exchange may have changed. You may have found yourself carrying the connection more than sharing it. You may have become the one who explains, waits, forgives, initiates, understands, and stretches their heart far beyond what feels fair. At a certain point, even love begins to question the cost of staying where mutual care no longer exists. For others, this card may point to work, a life path, a friendship, a family dynamic, or even an internal pattern. Sometimes the thing we must walk away from is not a person. Sometimes it is the habit of accepting less than we need. Sometimes it is the role we played because it once kept us safe. Sometimes it is the version of ourselves that learned to overgive, over-explain, or remain loyal to situations that have already expired emotionally. The Eight of Cups carries grief, but it also carries dignity. That is important. This is not the energy of chaos. This is not reckless escape. This card shows a conscious departure. It shows a person who may still feel the ache of what they are leaving, yet knows that continuing to stay would cost too much of their spirit. There is maturity in that choice. There is wisdom in recognizing that attachment and alignment are not the same thing. So the message of this card is deeply clear. There is something you have outgrown. Your heart already knows it. And the path forward begins the moment you stop trying to force meaning where your soul keeps meeting emptiness. Your third card is the Ace of Pentacles. This is the point in the reading where the energy becomes tangible. The first card opened the space for healing. The second showed the truth of what may need to be left behind. Now this final card introduces the beginning of something real, grounded, and capable of growing in the material world. The Ace of Pentacles is not vague. It does not only speak of emotion or spiritual insight. It deals with what can actually take shape in your life. It points to practical opportunity, stability, money, work, health, security, a home, a new project, a serious commitment, or a foundation that can support you more solidly than what you've known recently. There is weight in this card. There is substance in it. And after the emotional intensity of the previous cards, this feels especially important. What stands out to me is that this opportunity may not arrive in a way that immediately looks dramatic. Pentacle energy often begins quietly. It can appear as a conversation, a small offer, an idea that suddenly seems worth taking seriously, a chance to rebuild, a job opening, a financial shift, a business concept, a healthier routine, or a path that gives you a stronger sense of structure. It may not have the loud excitement of fantasy, but it has the strength of something that can last. That matters because many people reach a point in life where they stop wanting intensity and start wanting truth. They stop wanting promises and start wanting consistency. They stop wanting emotional highs that collapse into confusion and start wanting something that can hold them in a more stable way. The Ace of Pentacles speaks to that desire. It suggests that the next chapter may not be built on illusion. It may be built on something reliable. For someone watching, this card feels like an answer to a prayer you may not have fully put into words. You may have been asking for relief, not only emotionally but practically. You may have wanted a sign that life could begin to move in a more stable direction. You may have been exhausted by uncertainty, tired of wondering whether the effort you've put into yourself would ever translate into real change. This card says that a door is opening in the physical world. The inner work is not staying invisible forever. It is beginning to create external potential. There is also a personal message here about worthiness. Sometimes people hesitate when real opportunity approaches because pain has trained them to expect disappointment. They question whether it is too soon, whether they are ready, whether they deserve it, whether it will last, whether they can trust it. If that sounds like you, this card is asking you to notice how often fear disguises itself as caution. Yes, discernment matters. Yes, wisdom matters. But when a grounded opportunity begins to form, you do not need to sabotage it simply because struggle has become familiar. The Ace of Pentacles also asks you to become more intentional about what you are building. Not everything that sparkles deserves your energy, but what is steady, aligned, and practical may deserve far more attention than you have been giving it. This can be a moment to commit more seriously to your own future, to organize your ideas, to invest in your gifts, to say yes to growth that requires discipline rather than constant emotional drama, to recognize that your life deserves structure, support, and care. For some of you, this card will connect to finances. There may be an improvement available through new work, a better offer, a business move, a skill you can develop, or a decision that helps you create more security over time. For others, it may connect to home and stability, especially if your recent life has felt unsettled. It can also point to health and the body, suggesting that the next beginning involves grounding yourself physically, not only emotionally. A healthier routine, more rest, better boundaries, more consistent habits, and a stronger relationship with your own well-being may be part of this new chapter. What I love most about this card in this spread is its timing. It comes after the Eight of Cups for a reason. That tells me this new beginning becomes more available when space is made for it. The moment you stop pouring energy into what keeps draining you, something else has room to enter. Sometimes people think opportunity will appear first, and only then will they have the courage to leave what is wrong. Yet many times, the sequence works differently. The release creates the opening. The opening allows the new energy to land. I see. A solid beginning is becoming possible. It may arrive with more simplicity than spectacle, but it carries real potential. And the next part of your life may be built not on survival, but on something steadier, healthier, and far more aligned. When these three cards are read together, the message becomes beautifully clear. We begin with the Star, a card of healing, spiritual reassurance, and the return of hope after emotional difficulty. Then we move into the Eight of Cups, where truth rises to the surface and asks you to acknowledge what no longer fulfills your heart. Finally, the Ace of Pentacles appears, showing that once space is made, a new beginning with real-world substance can start to take shape. This spread tells a story of transition, but not a chaotic one. It has order. It has wisdom. It shows an emotional process unfolding in a way that makes sense. First, the soul recovers enough to see clearly. Then the heart admits what it can no longer keep carrying. After that, life begins presenting something that can support you in a more grounded way. That sequence is powerful. It suggests you are not in a random or meaningless phase. Even if the last part of your journey felt confusing, there is design in what is happening now. Healing is helping you reclaim your clarity. Clarity is helping you make peace with what needs to end. That ending is not empty. It is making room for something better built. This feels especially important for the person who has been afraid that letting go means losing everything. These cards say otherwise. They do not show collapse. They show evolution. They do not show abandonment. They show redirection. They do not suggest that your pain was pointless. They suggest that what you went through has sharpened your understanding of what truly supports your spirit and what only drains it. If this reading feels personal, it may be because you are standing between identities. Part of you already knows the old chapter cannot continue in the same way. Another part of you is still getting used to the idea that the future could ask something different of you. In between those two versions of self, there is uncertainty, but there is also possibility. These cards speak directly to that space. If this reading resonated with you, I would love to know which card spoke to your heart most deeply. Was it the Star? Because you've been healing in ways others may not fully see? Was it the Eight of Cups? Because a part of you already knows it is time to stop carrying what no longer feels right? Or was it the Ace of Pentacles? Because you can sense a new beginning forming and you're ready for something more stable, more honest, and more aligned. If you'd like to claim this reading, comment below. I am ready for what truly aligns with me. Please like this video, subscribe to Universal Tarot, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future readings. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for bringing your energy into this space. And thank you for allowing these messages to meet you wherever you are on your path. Until next time, trust what your intuition is showing you, protect your peace with intention, and stay open to the blessings that grow quietly before they fully arrive. Bye for now.